Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Hobby Tech here. In this video, we're going to take a look at my project. It's still in progress, not yet completed. So it's for vertical left panel on the jet fighter's kind of cockpit, a generic cockpit. So why I embark in this kind of project? Because this is my latest setup for playing DCS jet fighters. And also I can go back and play FS 2020 jet fighters easily with center joystick using VKB modern jet fighters flight stick. And I think it's more toward kind of Russian modern like Su-27, I guess. But yeah, I can use for any other aircraft basically. And also complemented with the hot ass Warthog thrust controllers or throttle controllers or quadrants on the left side for my throttle. And this setup is mostly for jet fighters. As you can see, the Cougar or Thrustmaster Cougar multifunction display buttons are also in place, two of them. I don't have the third one on the middle for FA18, but should be okay in most cases. And I'm hiding actually the yoke, my HTG DIY yoke behind it. So I can slide in the HTG yoke to be hidden behind the Cougar buttons, Thrustmaster Cougar MFD buttons. So on the left side, also the hot ass Warthog and the A320 joystick can be interchangeably used. So if I am using jet fighter with hot ass Warthog, I'm sliding the base forward. So the hot ass Warthog throttle will be in my ideal position with my left hand. But if I want to use for let's say FS 2020 airliners like A320, I can slide the panel of the base panel backward, so the joystick will be on my ideal left hand positions. The rest I don't change because I just let it be. Now, if you can see, the problem is if I'm using jet fighters, either in FS20 Microsoft Flight Simulators or in DCS, the gear lever from the one provided in Honeycomb or my DIY for A320 on the far right will be on the right side. So it's not ideal, because if you are using jet fighters, most of the gear levers on the landing gear levers on the left side, right? Because if you are trying to land with the jet fighters, your hand or right hand will be on the stick, definitely most of the time, trying to steer the aircraft into the landing position, or let's say base, turning in the base, or the down leg kind of path. Your right hand will be engaged mostly, so it will be counterintuitive to release it and then trying to put to switch down or lower the gear, the landing gear on the right side, right? So to mitigate that problem, I attached the kind of landing gear on my hot ass Warthog, but it's very difficult because it's a small switch, especially if you're using VR. So it's kind of like trying to find that switch will be quite difficult on your hot ass Warthog. If you are not using VR, probably okay, because you can take a look into your left hand and then trying to find that switch. But using VR, then you have to fumble around trying to find that switch. So I think that because I'm very, I'm getting used to build my own cockpit. Most of this are DIY on the landing gear on the right side, GA panel below the HOTAS, below the Cougar, Thrustmaster Cougar, that is for GA aircraft I built myself. Even the A320 FCU panel and the autopilot panel or the front panel is also DIY. And what else? The pedestal on the A320 on my right side, also DIY. So I used to do that, and you can see all the video on how to create the controller using MMJoy. So I'm not going to go through again that MMJoy kind of programming, because there's a link in the description describing the MMJoy programming. Okay, now going back here, I need to create a quick landing gear lever on the left side, so it's close to my left hand and HOTAS Warthog basically. So when I hand the throttle, I can easily flip it, landing gear or flap or whatever, landing gear light for example, very easily. Even if I'm using VR, I can easily reach it and then try to find the right switch, right? So that goes back into my project of creating this controller. So basically this is still in work in progress. It's very crude, very rough, because I'm reusing all materials from my first virtual cockpit. So back then I'm creating most of the parts using 3D FDM, so it's very rough, not using resin 3D printing. So it's very rough, very, you know, basically it's just functionally okay but not aesthetically good. So I don't care because I'm using also VR at this moment, so most of the time I just need the shape, the correct shape and form for me to be able to interact with. So this one is from my old one and then attached into the switch on off. So it's very tough switch. I'm going to show you the switch. This one is on and off toggle switch, on and off. This one is momentary on, off, on. So up, on, center, off, down, on, and going back into center. So this one also momentary. So I can assign this one to flap, for example. This one definitely to landing gear. This one to light, landing light, for example. This is another light if I need to. Just make it a different D10 here. There's 3 circle here. This is only 2, so I can touch and feel in VR. For example, this one is the left side. This one is the right side switch. And this one is a bit rounded switch. I can touch and feel, oh, this is a kind of this switch. And this one is a pointy one. So I can feel this is the bottom one. This is another one on the left. You can use it for hook, for example, in FA18 or in A4 or whatever, if you want to put it here. So this is a multifunction keyboard, joystick controllers or controllers. Rather than buying a Virpil or VKB one or those are a Winwing, for example, those are quite expensive. It could be hundreds and actually hundreds of dollars at least for one panels only. This one probably barely costs $50 because I'm using used parts anyway. Because I'm having 3D printers if you have to, but you can use any parts, you know, you can use just a bare switch. So I'm going to show you the switch. So this one is the switch for this landing gear. So if you can see, you probably look familiar. This switch is used, I think I got it cheap in my online store in my locals. I think this is the switch for the on-off switch for the old PC. It's a very IBM PC XT, those big metal box, using the switch on off, if not mistaken, I think, because they kind of like, they have plenty switch, nobody buying it, so I'm the only one who buying it. I'm using a lot of this switch to kind of for the hook, for the lever, the hook lever in FA18, for example, back then. Just very, this is very rough switch and very sturdy, so you don't easily flip it. So it's very good. And it's not moving. If you're using the rounded toggle switch, sometimes this lever can move, right? Can move around. This one, because I'm sticking into the, like I'm putting a metal tube here, hollow one, and on the middle I cut it half and then make it flat and then drill and then put a nuts and bolt to attach to this with some D10 here, so it won't wiggle right and left. But anyway, it's have this groove, so it won't move. But I kind of like create a notch here, so the tube will stay stick and then press with the nut and bolt. So it's pretty sturdy. It's not easily. It's similar with like a honeycomb one. So I find it very good. So this is the switch for landing gear. So this is a simple switch. On, off, on, off. So basically two-way momentary switch. Yeah, so this is plastic one, so I attached into this one using a hot glue, 3D printed materials into this one. So it's also not easily turn. So if using a round one, it can easily turn, especially metal. If you're not gluing it, the base will turn easily. So it's kind of like very odd. This one will stick and stay the same, so I'm good for this one. This one is using a very cheap on and off switch. Why I select this one, not the big one? Because this one doesn't turn. The base is fixed and it doesn't turn. So I'm using this cheap one and just glue it up with hot glue, and it can stick. I mean, it doesn't move around, this one, right? So it's stick. So it's very nice, this switch. So it's very good choices for me, at least. The other one, there's option for this one. If you don't want to use this 3D printed, you can use this one. It's very nice built. I found it very cheap. You can probably buy in AliExpress or local one or Banggood or whatever. Yeah, this one is very nice, kind of like nice feel. Yeah, so you don't need to use this one if you want to. You can also use bare like this. It's okay also, right? This is much more tougher to move, and this one is easier to move. But it's very nice, right? So it's kind of like, if you can have several more if you want to. So that is the switch. I think this one is also the Pro Micro. So Arduino Pro Micro, very small, very cheap. It's probably around what? I don't know, $4, $5. This is replica anyway, not the real Pro Micro from Arduino itself, but it's just a duplicate or the kind of China-made kind of Arduino. So it's very cheap. It works. I will program with the MMJoys later on, firmware, and then I program the MMJoy itself with this connectivity. So I create my own shift registers. I printed this PCB, ordered to local PCB producer. I think they ship it into China. I made a lot of this because I need a lot of this shift registers. I'm using 74 HC165N. It's a dip size, so it's a bigger one. I don't use the SMD version. It's very difficult to solder. So this one is the old version, the dip one, so dual inline package. I'm using a pull-up resistor here and a small capacitor just to stabilize the voltage, and I can daisy chain this into as much as I want. If you want to, I can make a 24 this is 16, so I can make double of this into, let's say, 32 inputs, for example, or even more if you want to, but just be careful with the delay. Then you connect this to this MMJoy firmware controller, for example, from Arduino Pro Micro, to read the serial from this one, right? So you can have 16 at least input from this PCB alone. Yeah. Previously, I've just connected using like a matrix connections, but it's unreliable. So using shift register, I think it's guaranteed more accurate reading of the switch position. So this is the controllers later on. So I'm going to connect the micro USB into my PC for the controllers. So I have 16. This one probably consume around 11. This 1, 2, 3, and because these two, each of them, this is 8 plus 3, so 11. So I still have 5. So what I'm gonna use more? Okay, so I have another. So this one is also from my old build. Sorry. So this one is a very big one. I create this one when I was creating my VR cockpit, the first version. So you can see the video down below when I create that one. So at that time I'm planning to create a multi-cockpit for 4 aircraft in DCS, for example FA18, Harrier, FE8B, and then also Mirage 2000s, and also A10. So at least I can cover 4 aircraft at a time. So this is for the Harrier what do you call it, truss controller. So if you want to go vertical, you have to kind of arrange the truss lever, right? So sorry, the nozzle, yeah, the nozzle angle. So actually, sorry, you can see here if I move the big wheel move, and it will translate a larger move into this potentiometer. So I'm using just a carbon potentio. I still can use this one as analog input, so I'm gonna connect this one one analog input into the Joy later on also, because I have plenty of pin for analog input. I'm gonna use this one for analog input, and for the rest of the digital input, because I still have 5 more, so I'm gonna connect into this micro switch. So you can see here micro switch. This switch is actually used to detect this position of this lever. So I can read from analog if I want to for the Harrier one, for example. But let's say I just want to use this for the flap, okay, for the flap for MiG-15, for example, or even for the Sabre, because they use this lever, big lever for the flap, right? I can use to detect the switch here. Okay, so it's kind of like if I kind of push into the front, that will push the switch, and let's say in this positions it will activate the switch, and this position will activate the switch, and the last one will activate this switch. So I can have 4 positions. I think MiG-15 use 4 flap position also, or any other function if you want to for 4 switch positions, or you can use the analog input anyway. So this one will connect into the my Joy controller also, the board, the Arduino Pro Micro. So I can read also and put this next to my Warthog, Hot-S Warthog. Yeah, so I'm probably need to trying to make the bracket to attach to the base panel or the base table. I'm putting kind of what do you call it, a spring, and a metal ball, to be able to use this with this D10. Sorry, it show up the yellow plastic underneath, so because it's kind of like being rubbed all together, but the ball will probably click into each of the hole. I can feel it. That's nice kind of setting. I can try to make it larger though, to make it easy, make the ball a bit kind of the right feel to it in terms of detecting the position of the lever. So yeah, so this is actually a used part. So I dismantle all my first cockpit, the virtual cockpit, the first one. Again, the link is down below if you want to see. I'm describing the cockpit. The problem with that cockpit is just too many switch. So although it's called VR cockpit, you will be it will be difficult to find the right switch in that cockpit. So I kind of like, it is not working. So I dismantled that cockpit. I'm mostly reuse most of the materials. That one is for the Harrier lever. This one I'm reusing this gear lever and some of the this button kind of knobs. Okay, so that's the video. I need to stop here. It's not yet finished. I need to wire this thing up and reprogram the things. Once it's working, I'm gonna have another video probably using it using the DCS and FS 2020 later on. Okay, so see you. Hopefully that gives you some ideas or insight. Probably if you want to do your DIY very cheap, probably you don't need to pay more than $50 for the controllers. As long as you have some guts to really do it yourself, you can reuse materials. You can use your kids, probably wheel, toys, whatever. Just use your creativity. Yeah, so hopefully you can create your own controllers without spending too much money in a big expensive gear, for example. So yeah, so I did buy some the difficult one, like throttle, like joystick, for accuracy, because they use the Hall effect. I haven't really been able to. I do purchase some of the Hall effect chip, but I haven't been able to create my own joystick, for example. Probably later on. Okay, so enjoy. So hopefully you got your own project working. Okay, see you.